Alex Rodriguez was having one of those days where everything seemed to go wrong. His laptop crashed while working on an important project. His car made strange noises all morning, and now it was pouring rain. Oh, he was driving home from his small graphic design office when he spotted a fancy black car pulled over on the side of the highway, hazard lights blinking. Most people would have driven past. Alex almost did, too, but something made him slow down and pull over behind the stranded vehicle. Maybe it was the way the tall figure stood perfectly still in the rain, not even trying to stay dry. Or maybe Alex was just a decent person who couldn't leave someone stranded. The man was unlike anyone Alex had ever met. He stood about 6.5 feet tall with skin so pale it almost seemed to glow in the dim evening light. His hair was perfectly black, and his eyes were an unusual shade of gray that seemed to change color depending on the light. When he spoke, his voice was calm and measured like someone reading from a script. "Thank you for stopping," the man said, extending his hand. "My name is Adrian. I appear to be experiencing mechanical difficulties." Alex shook his hand, noticing how cold Adrian's skin felt despite the warm evening. "I'm Alex. What seems to be the problem?" Adrian looked at his car with the expression of someone trying to solve a complex puzzle. "The engine has ceased functioning. I believe it may be related to the electrical system, though I am not entirely certain." Something about the way Adrian spoke caught Alex's attention. His English was perfect, but formal in a way that seemed almost old-fashioned. He didn't use contractions, and every word was pronounced with careful precision. Alex couldn't place his accent either. Wasn't quite European, but definitely not American. After looking under the hood for a few minutes, Alex realized the problem was simple. A loose battery cable had worked itself free. "Should be easy to fix," he said, tightening the connection with a wrench from his emergency kit. The car started immediately. Adrian stared at the engine for a long moment, as if memorizing exactly what Alex had done. "Remarkable," he said quietly. "Ash, such a simple solution to what appeared to be a complex problem. Happens all the time." Alex laughed. "Sometimes the easiest fixes are the ones we miss." Adrian turned to face him with an intensity that was almost unsettling. "You have been extraordinarily kind to a complete stranger. How might I repay this kindness?" Most people would have said, "Don't worry about it," and driven away. But there was something about Adrian that made Alex curious. Maybe it was loneliness. Alex had been going through a rough patch since his divorce 6 months earlier. His ex-wife had taken most of their mutual friends, and his small business kept him too busy to make new ones. "How about buy me a cup of coffee sometime?" Alex suggested. Adrian's face lit up with what might have been relief. "Yes, I would very much enjoy that." They met the following Saturday at a small diner. Alex recommended what started as a simple thank you coffee turned into a 3-hour conversation that left Alex feeling like he'd made a genuine friend for the first time in years. Adrian was fascinating to talk to. He seemed genuinely interested in everything Alex told him about graphic design, asking detailed questions about color theory and visual communication. But when Alex asked about Adrian's work, the answers became vague. "I do consulting," Adrian said carefully. "I help companies solve technical problems they cannot resolve internally." "What kind of technical problems?" "Efficiency issues, resource management. Sometimes I help them understand market patterns." Adrian paused, stirring his coffee thoughtfully. "I have always been good at seeing patterns that others miss." Over the following weeks, their friendship grew stronger. Adrian would call Alex with predictions about the weather that turned out to be eerily accurate. He once told Alex to buy stock in a small tech company 3 days before it announced a major breakthrough. When Alex asked how he knew, Adrian simply said he paid attention to details most people overlooked. Adrian lived in a modest apartment across town, but it was filled with the strangest collection of items Alex had ever seen. There were books written in languages Alex didn't recognize electronic devices that hummed quietly even when they weren't plugged in, and star charts that showed constellations Alex had never seen before. I have always been interested in astronomy, Adrian explained when Alex asked about the charts. Where I come from, we spend a great deal of time studying the stars. Where exactly are you from? Alex asked. It was a question he'd been wanting to ask for months. Adrian was quiet for a long time, very far away. He finally said, It's much farther than you might imagine. As their friendship deepened, Alex began to notice things about Adrian that didn't quite add up. He never seemed to eat much, though he always ordered food when they went to restaurants. He knew things about technology that hadn't been invented yet, and sometimes late at night when they were talking, Adrian would mention memories that seemed to span decades, even though he looked like he was in his 30s. The strangest thing was how Adrian reacted to simple human experiences. He watched children playing in the park with the fascination of someone seeing something completely new. You once spent 20 minutes studying how ice cream melted, taking notes in a small notebook he always carried. You act like you've never seen any of this stuff before. Alex joked one afternoon. Adrian looked at him with an expression that was both sad and grateful. In many ways, I have not. Everything here is different from what I'm accustomed to. It was around this time that Adrian began talking about Alina. He spoke of her with a love so deep it was almost painful to witness. According to Adrian, she was stuck in their home country due to complicated immigration issues. He showed Alex photos on his phone, and Alex had to admit she was the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. Her hair was dark with unusual silver streaks, and her eyes were a violet color that seemed almost impossible. She wants to join me here, Adrian said, but the paperwork is very complex. Our government does not make it easy for people like us to travel. Alex offered to help with the immigration process, but Adrian politely declined. It is not the kind of problem that can be solved through normal channels, he said mysteriously. As winter approached, Alex noticed that Adrian seemed tired more often. He moved more slowly and spoke more quietly. When Alex asked if he was feeling all right, Adrian smiled sadly. I have been dealing with a health condition for some time, he admitted. The doctors here do not really understand it. They say it is very rare. What kind of condition? Adrian hesitated. It affects my entire system. It's like my body is slowly forgetting how to function properly in this environment. Alex insisted on going with Adrian to his next doctor's appointment, but Adrian refused. The doctors cannot help me, he said with finality. This is something that must run its course. Over the next few months, Alex watched his friend grow weaker. Adrian moved into Alex's spare bedroom after collapsing one evening while they were having dinner. Alex took care of him, bringing him meals and sitting with him during the long nights. When sleep wouldn't come, it was during one of these quiet nights that Adrian made a request that would change Alex's life forever. I need to ask something very important of you, Adrian said, his voice barely above a whisper. When I am gone, Alina will need someone to help her, someone she can trust. Alex felt his stomach drop. You're not going anywhere. We'll figure this out. Adrian smiled weakly. You have been the best friend I have ever had in this place. The only person who accepted me without asking too many questions. That is why I know you will take care of her. Of course, I'll help her however I can, but it will be more complicated than you realize. Adrian interrupted gently. Alina and we are not quite what we appear to be. Soon you will understand why that matters. Adrian's condition got worse faster than anyone expected. What started as occasional fatigue turned into days where he could barely get out of bed. Alex took time off from his graphic design work to stay with his friend, watching helplessly as Adrian seemed to fade away bit by bit. The strangest part was how calm Adrian remained about everything. While Alex worried and suggested different doctors or treatments, Adrian acted like he had already accepted his fate. He spent most of his time organizing papers and making phone calls in languages Alex didn't recognize. I need to make arrangements. Adrian would say whenever Alex asked what he was doing. There are things that must be handled properly. 3 weeks before Adrian passed away, a lawyer showed up at Alex's door. The man introduced himself as Mr. Hicks, and he looked nervous from the moment Alex let him in. Rise kept glancing around the apartment like he expected someone to be watching them. Your friend asked me to handle some legal matters, Hicks explained, setting his briefcase on the coffee table with shaky hands. He wants to make sure everything is taken care of properly. Alex sat down across from the lawyer, confused. What kind of legal matters? Hicks pulled out a thick folder of documents. Mr. Adrian has named you as a sole beneficiary. Means when he passes away, everything he owns will legally belong to you. That's crazy, Alex said immediately. I can't accept that. We've only been friends for less than a year. He was very specific about his wishes. Hicks continued, sweat beading on his forehead, despite the cool temperature in the room. He said you were the only person he trusted completely. Alex looked through the papers, but the legal language was too complicated to understand. What exactly are we talking about here? I mean, Adrian lives pretty simply. Doesn't seem to have much. Hicks cleared his throat uncomfortably. Mr. Adrian has been modest about his financial situation. The estate includes several bank accounts, investment portfolios, and some unusual assets that I'm not entirely qualified to explain. How much money are we talking about? Approximately $12 million in liquid assets, Hendricks said quietly, plus several properties and some items that may be worth considerably more. Alex felt like the room was spinning. 12 million? That's impossible. Adrian drives an old car and lives in a tiny apartment. Wealthy people often live below there. Means, Hendricks said, though he didn't sound convinced by his own explanation. There's something else. Mr. Adrian has arranged for his wife to come here after his passing. She need assistance getting settled. Alina, Alex said, remembering the photos Adrian had shown him. Yes, Mr. Adrian was very clear that you should help her with whatever she needs. He said she would be vulnerable during the transition. Rise left more papers for Alex to sign along, with keys to a storage facility and safety deposit box. Before leaving, he turned back with a worried expression. Mr. Rodriguez, I have to advise you to be careful about who you discuss this inheritance with. There are some government agencies that have expressed interest in Mr. Adrian's affairs. What kind of interest? It's a kind that asks a lot of questions and doesn't always accept the answers they get. Hendricks said grimly, my advice is to keep a low profile until things settle down. Adrian passed away peacefully on a Thursday morning. Alex was holding his hand when it happened, and Adrian's last words were about Alina. She needed the devices in storage. Unit 47, he whispered, promise me you'll keep them safe until she arrives. The funeral was small and strange. Besides Alex, only 3 other people attended. One was a doctor who spoke with a thick accent Alex couldn't identify. The other 2 were men in dark suits who stood at the back and never introduced themselves. They watched everything with the intense focus of people taking mental notes. After the service, Alex went to the storage facility. Unit 47 was much larger than he expected. It's filled with boxes and equipment that looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie. There were metal devices, covered in panels that glowed softly blue. Computers that appeared to be decades ahead of anything Alex had seen. When boxes of components that hummed with energy even though they weren't plugged into anything. One box contained files written in the same strange languages Alex had seen in Adrian's apartment. Another held photographs of landscapes that looked like they came from another planet. There were images of cities with impossible architecture and skies that seemed to have 2 suns. The most unsettling discovery was a folder labeled for Alex in Adrian's careful handwriting. Inside were detailed instructions about the storage. Unit contents along with a letter that made Alex's hand shake as he read it. My dear friend, the letter began. If you are reading this, then I am gone and Alina is coming to find you. The things in this storage unit are not from this world, just as Alina and I are not from this world. We are refugees from a place very far away, and these devices are the only way Elena can ever return home safely. Alex read the letter 3 times before it started to make sense. Adrian wrote about parallel dimensions, advanced technology, and a war that had scattered survivors across different realities. He explained that the illness that killed him was caused by being displaced from his home dimension for too long. Alina is stronger than I was, the letter continued, but she will eventually face the same fate unless she can return home. The devices in this storage unit can open a pathway back to our dimension, but only Alina knows how to operate them safely. The letter ended with a warning that made Alex's blood run cold. There are people in your government who know about us. They have been watching and waiting for an opportunity to study our technology. You must protect Alina and the devices until she can complete the journey home. Trust no one except Alina, and be very careful who you allow into your life from now on. Over the next few days, Alex began to notice things that confirmed Adrienne's warnings. The same dark sedan appeared outside his apartment building multiple times. His phone developed a strange echo during calls. Someone broke into his graphic design office, though nothing appeared to be stolen. When Alex went to the bank to access Adrian's accounts, he discovered the inheritance was even larger than Hendricks had indicated. There were accounts in 5 different banks, stock portfolios that had somehow predicted every major market movement of the past 3 years, and investment funds that seemed to generate returns that defied every rule of economics. Alex knew the bank manager, a woman named Mrs. Patterson, seemed nervous when she handed Alex the account information. Mr. Adrian left specific instructions about these accounts. She said, glancing around the private office, you wanted to make sure you understood that some transactions might draw unwanted attention. What kind of attention? The kind that asks questions about where money comes from and how someone could predict market changes so accurately. Mrs. Patterson said quietly, my advice is to be very careful about making large withdrawals or transfers. That evening, Alex got a call from an airline representative. Elena would be arriving in 5 days on a flight from Prague. She had Alex's contact information and would be expecting him to meet her at the airport. As Alex hung up the phone, he looked around his small apartment and wondered how his simple life had become so complicated. 3 months ago, his biggest worry was paying rent and finding new clients for his design business. Now he was supposedly worth millions of dollars in possession of technology that might not be from Earth, and about to meet a woman who was apparently from another dimension. The strangest part was that despite everything that happened, Alex found himself looking forward to meeting Alina. Adrian had spoken about her with such love and admiration that Alex felt like he already knew her. But as he prepared for her arrival, he couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to become much more dangerous than he had ever imagined. Alex arrived at the airport 2 hours early, nervous in a way he hadn't felt since his first job interview. He kept checking his phone for flight updates and wondering what he would say to Alina when he saw her deceased best friend. When that friend left you millions of dollars in alien technology, the international arrivals area was crowded, with families holding welcome signs and taxi drivers looking for passengers. Alex held a simple piece of paper with Elena written on it, feeling foolish but not knowing what else to do. Adrian had never told him Elena's last name. When passengers from the Prague flight started coming through customs, Alex spotted her immediately. The photos Adrian had shown him didn't do her justice. Alina moved through the crowd with a grace that made everyone else seem clumsy by comparison. Her dark hair had those unusual silver streaks that caught the airport lighting, and when she looked around searching for someone, Alex caught a glimpse of those impossible violet eyes. She was shorter than he expected, maybe 5.5 feet tall, but there was something about her presence that made her seem larger. She wore simple clothes, dark jeans, and a gray sweater, but carried herself like royalty. When she spotted Alex's sign, she walked toward him with perfect posture and steps that seemed to make no sound on the busy terminal floor. "You must be Alex," she said, extending her hand. Her voice had the same formal quality as Adrienne's, but with a musical accent that was even harder to place. "Adrienne spoke of you often. Thank you for coming to meet me." Her handshake was firm, but her skin felt cold, just like Adrienne's had been. "I'm so sorry for your loss," Alex said, immediately, feeling like the words weren't enough. Adrienne was a great friend. Elena's eyes softened slightly. "He told me you took care of him during his final weeks. That means more to me than you can." No, the ride to Alex's apartment was quiet and awkward. Lena sat perfectly still in the passenger seat, watching the city pass by with the intense focus of someone memorizing every detail. She asked questions about things that seemed obvious to Alex. Why there were so many different car colors, how traffic lights worked, why some buildings were taller than others. "You talk like you've never seen a city before," Alex said, trying to make conversation. "Every place is different," Alina replied carefully. "I want to understand how things work here." At Alex's apartment, Alina politely declined his offer of food or drinks. She sat on the edge of the couch like she was ready to leave at any moment, her small suitcase on the floor beside her. "Adrienne left some things for you," Alex said, not sure how to bring up the storage unit or the letter. "There's a lot we need to talk about." "I know about the devices," Alina said, quietly. "Adrienne told me you would keep them safe." She looked around the apartment with those unusual eyes. "He also told me you could be trusted with the truth about what we are." Alex felt his heart rate increase. "He left me a letter, said some pretty incredible things." Lena nodded slowly. "What did you think when you read it?" "Honestly, I thought maybe grief was making me imagine things. Parallel dimensions and alien technology sounds like something from a movie." Alina stood up and walked to the window overlooking the parking lot. "Do you see the gray car parked across the street? The one with two men sitting in the front seats?" Alex looked where she was pointing. It was indeed a gray sedan with two figures inside. "Yeah, I see it. They followed us from the airport. They've been watching you since Adrienne died. And now they are watching me." Alina turned back to face him. "These are the people Adrienne warned you about. Government agents who want our technology. How can you be so calm about this?" Lena walked back to the couch, but instead of sitting down, she picked up a small electronic device from Alex's coffee table, his tablet. She held it in her hands for a moment, and Alex watched in amazement as the screen lit up without her touching any buttons. The device began cycling through applications and settings at impossible speed. "This is very primitive compared to what we are used to," Elena said, setting the tablet down. The screen went dark immediately, but the basic principles are the same. Energy and information stored and transmitted through matter. Alex stared at the tablet, then at Alina. "How did you do that?" "It's the same way you might pet a cat or turn a doorknob," Alina said with a slight smile. "It is natural for me, though I understand it appears unusual to you." Over the next few hours, Alina gradually revealed more about herself and Adrienne. They came from a dimension where humans had evolved differently, developing abilities that seemed impossible by Earth standards. Their world was more advanced technologically, but it had been destroyed by a war between different human factions. Adrienne and I were among the refugees who escaped through dimensional gateways, Alina explained. "But the displacement process is hard on our bodies. We are not meant to exist in this reality for extended periods." "That's what killed Adrienne," Alex said, understanding dawning on him. "Yes, and it will eventually affect me the same way, unless I can return home before it progresses too far." Lena showed Alex some of her abilities over the following days. She could make electronic devices respond to her touch, seem to know things about people just by being near them, and had reflexes that were definitely not normal. When Alex accidentally knocked over a glass of water. Alina caught it before. It hit the floor, moving faster than Alex's eyes could follow. In our world, these abilities are common, she explained. But here, they make us stand out in ways that can be dangerous. The danger became more real each day. The gray car was joined by others. Alex's phone developed. More strange echoes and delays. Someone broke into his graphic design office again, this time leaving subtle signs that they had been through everything carefully. Alina seemed to sense the watchers, even when Alex couldn't see them. She would suddenly change direction while walking or suggest they take a different route home from the store. Her awareness of their surroundings was almost supernatural. They are getting more bold, she told Alex one evening as they watched 3 different cars parked on nearby streets. Soon they will stop simply watching and start taking action. They will try to take me for questioning about our technology. They will want to study how my abilities work. Elena's expression grew dark. Adrian made me promise to never let that happen. As the days passed, Alex found himself drawn to Elena in ways that made him feel guilty. Was beautiful, intelligent, and mysterious. But she was also the widow of his best friend. The way she looked at Adrienne's photos with such sadness reminded Alex that she was still grieving. But there were moments when Alex caught Alina watching him with an expression he couldn't read. When he helped her understand how something worked, or when he made her laugh with a joke about their strange situation, she would look at him with something that might have been gratitude mixed with something else. Adrian chose well when he picked you as his friend, Elena said one night, as they sat looking through Adrian's belongings. He said you had a good heart and that you would protect me when he could not. I'll do whatever I can to help you get home safely, Alex promised. Alina was quiet for a long moment. What if I told you there might be another way? What if the journey home was not the only option? Before Alex could ask what she meant, Alina suddenly stood up and moved to the window. We need to leave, she said urgently. Now! What's wrong? There are more of them coming. Too many to avoid this time. Elena grabbed her small suitcase and looked at Alex with eyes that seemed to glow slightly in the dim light. It is time for you to see what Adrian's technology can really do. Elena's condition took a sharp turn for the worse, just as they were putting the finishing touches on the dimensional gateway. Alex woke up one morning to find her sitting on the edge of the bed, her face pale and her hands shaking as she tried to get dressed. I'm having trouble with my coordination, she admitted when Alex rushed to help her. My vision keeps blurring. It's happening faster than I expected. Alex felt panic rise in his chest. They had been working 16-hour days trying to complete the gateway, but it still needed at least another week of calibrations. Maybe we should find a doctor, someone discreet, who could help. Alina shook her head weakly. No Earth doctor understands this condition. The only cure is returning to my home dimension before the displacement damage becomes irreversible. Despite her deteriorating health, Alina insisted on continuing their work. Alex watched helplessly as she struggled with tasks that had been easy for her just days before. Her ability to interface with the technology became inconsistent. Sometimes the devices would respond to her touch normally. Other times, nothing would happen at all. The connection between my consciousness and my abilities is breaking down, she explained during one of her clearer moments. It's like static interference that gets worse each day. Alex took over more of the technical work, following Elena's detailed instructions, even when she was too weak to demonstrate procedures herself. He learned to read the energy patterns and calibrate the resonance frequencies, becoming surprisingly skilled with technology that shouldn't have existed. You have a natural aptitude for this, Elena told him one evening as he successfully completed a complex power routing sequence. Adrian was right about your intuitive understanding. I just pay attention to what you teach me, Alex replied, trying to hide his growing fear about Elena's condition. Their breakthrough came on a Tuesday night. when Elena managed to establish a stable dimensional frequency lock. The gateway hummed to life with a sound like distant music, and the air in front of it began to shimmer like heat waves rising from summer pavement. "It's working," Elena whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I can see through to the other side." Alex looked into the shimmering portal and caught glimpses of another world. He saw spires of crystal reaching toward a sky with two suns and floating platforms connected by bridges that seemed to be made of pure light. It was beautiful and completely alien, nothing like anything on Earth. "Your world," he said in amazement. "Our world," Elena corrected softly, taking his hand. "If you still want to come with me." Before Alex could answer, alarms started blaring throughout their warehouse. Emergency lights flashed red, and the sound of helicopters filled the air outside. Through the windows, Alex could see armed vehicles surrounding the building. "They found us," Elena said, struggling to stand. The dimensional breach must have triggered their detection equipment. Alex helped Elena to her feet, both of them staring at the portal that flickered unstably in front of them. "How long can you keep it open?" "Not long in my condition," Elena admitted. "Maybe 5 minutes before it collapses." The warehouse doors exploded inward as government agents and tactical gear stormed inside. "Step away from the device," someone shouted through a megaphone. "This is a federal operation." Lena grabbed Alex's arm with surprising strength. "Gateway is only calibrated for one person," she said urgently. "If we both try to go through while it's unstable, neither of us will make it." Alex felt his world crashing down around him. After everything they had been through, after falling in love and building something beautiful together, they were faced with an impossible choice: save Elena by sending her home alone, or try to escape together and risk both their lives. "You have to go," Alex said, his voice breaking. "I won't let you die here, and I won't leave you to face imprisonment or worse," Elena replied. Fiercely, "We go together or not at all." The agents were getting closer, setting up equipment to contain or shut down the portal. Alex could see scientists in white coats directing the operation, their eyes fixed on Elena and the dimensional gateway with hungry fascination. "There's a third option," Elena said suddenly, her violet eyes blazing with determination. "We can overload the gateway's power core. We'll create a massive energy discharge that should allow both of us to cross." But that double quotes, "but what the process will be violent and unpredictable. We might not survive the transition, and if we do make it through the explosion, we'll destroy the gateway permanently. There would be no way back to Earth. Ever." Alex looked around the warehouse at the armed agents closing in on them, then at Elena's face, pale but resolute. He thought about his old life, his small apartment, his struggling business, the loneliness that had defined his existence before. Adrian came into his world. "I love you," he said simply. "That's all that matters." Elena smiled through her tears. "Adrian knew you would make this choice. He told me once that true friendship means being willing to sacrifice everything for someone you care about, working together." They began the overload sequence. Elena used what remained of her abilities to channel energy directly into the gateway's core, while Alex manually overrode the safety systems. The portal began to expand and pulse with dangerous amounts of power. "Stop what you're doing," the lead agent shouted, but he didn't dare get too close to the unstable dimensional rift. 30 seconds. Elena called out over the increasing noise of the overloading machinery. Alex grabbed the bag containing Adrienne's photos and letters, the only things they could take with them. Elena clutched a small device that contained all her technical knowledge, downloaded from the gateway's memory banks. "Whatever happens on the other side," Elena said, "we'll face it together." The gateway reached critical overload just as the agents made their final push to stop them. Alex and Elena jumped into the portal hand in hand, surrounded by blinding light and the sound of reality tearing apart. The transition felt like being turned inside out while falling through an ocean of electricity. Alex lost consciousness somewhere in the middle of it, his last memory being Elena's hand tight in his. He woke up lying on something that felt like grass, but glowed softly blue in the light of two distant suns. Elena was beside him, unconscious but breathing steadily. Around them stretched a landscape of impossible beauty, crystalline trees that chimed in the wind, rivers that flowed uphill, and in the distance the floating city Elena had told him about. When Elena finally opened her eyes, Alex saw that they had changed. The violet color was deeper now, and there was a strength in them that hadn't been there for weeks. The displacement sickness, Alex said hopefully, Dunlena confirmed. Sitting up with energy she hadn't shown since her arrival on Earth. Being back in my home dimension has reversed the damage. They helped each other stand, looking around at the alien world that was now Alex's home. He felt strange but not uncomfortable, like his body was slowly adapting to new laws of physics. Do you regret it? Elena asked, watching his face carefully. Alex looked at her healthy again, smiling, beautiful in the light of twin suns, and then at the incredible world spread out before them. I left behind a life that was half empty for one that's completely full, he said. How could I regret that? In the distance, they could see figures approaching from the floating city. Elena's people coming to welcome them home. Alex took Elena's hand and walked forward into his new life, carrying Adrian's memory with them and the knowledge that love sometimes means jumping into the unknown together. 6 months later, Alex had learned to read the energy patterns that served as writing in Elena's world, in his first letter to no one in particular. Since there was no way to send it back to Earth, he wrote about his new life among people who could manipulate reality with their thoughts. In a world where science and magic were the same thing, Adrian was right, he wrote. The best adventures begin when you choose to help a stranger in trouble. I helped fix his car battery, and he gave me the universe.